This podcast is brought to you by the Association for Coaching, the world's leading international professional body which is advancing coaching in business and society worldwide. I'm your host, Rob Lawrence, and in this new series, we are celebrating 20 years of the Association for Coaching by reflecting upon the journey so far. I meet with founders, coaches, leaders, and members who contributed to the AC's journey to learn more about their experiences with coaching as part of our global community. Together, we explore the impact that coaching has had on the world so far, what we need to be thinking about for the future to create more positive change whilst tackling some of the world's biggest challenges. Each week, you'll hear how coaches are working and collaborating as a global community together to advance coaching worldwide. Hello and welcome. My name is Rob Lawrence and I'm your host today for the AC20 podcast. With me today, I have the COO and the CEO, Alex and Katherine from the Association for Coaching, who are going to give us some of the background to the association and its 20-year journey. The wonderful opportunity that we've got here today is that both Alex and Katherine were there from the very beginning. This is their creation and what it has become. Many of us are celebrating today. So we're going to begin by going right back to the very beginning and ask you both, Alex and Katherine, why did it all start? What was that moment? Can you remember that moment where you got that spark of inspiration? We've got to make something here. What happened?
Thanks very much, Rob, and welcome everybody. Delighted to be here today. When we go back to the very beginning, still remember it really clearly. Katherine and I were both on our own development journeys from having come from a corporate and our own business backgrounds, and we were on a coach skills training course. And the question was raised by Katherine about what exists for professional coaches in terms of support and membership bodies. And it was that question that really sparked the idea about setting up a professional body. I was sitting next to Katherine, and that sparked all sorts of things for me. And we ultimately got together, started discussing the idea, and then we surveyed lots of coaches that we knew at that moment in time. And of course, 20 years ago, far fewer coaches than there are today. And we asked them, what would be important for them if we set up a professional body? And the things that came out at that time were really being part of a professional, inspiring community, having professional events to go to, robust accreditation schemes, and all sorts of things like that. And the premise of that is still stands today. So that's what gets us up every morning, that, what started us off then, still continues today in many more forms. So Katherine, what are your thoughts? What are your recollections?
Firstly, to say, has it really been 20 years? I mean, it has just flown by in a flash. And Alex and I know we speak about every day, don't we? We do speak every day. And I think you and I sometimes we're in our reflective mode, and we're so proud in all that's been done over the years and all the rippling effect that coaching has had. I think I've heard you and I both say we're as excited now as probably more excited now from when even we started out. So I think that's just, you're going to hear our energy, and it's such a pleasure to be doing what we do. And I think if I start off going back then, I guess starting off from from a personal perspective, I had been in London for about 5.5, 6 years. I'm originally from Boston in the US. And for me, there was a really transitional point because I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I was in corporate for most of my career, and I had a family of entrepreneurs, and I always had this dream of going over to Europe and starting my own business and traveling the world. So I guess if you're going back to personal purpose. So for me, the journey was I got my, at that time, EU citizenship, which I was very proud of. So I had the freedom pass to create my own business. And I think at a personal level, and I think you're the same, Alex, is, we both love growing people, growing businesses, and doing it with others. So for me, when I was figuring out at that point in my career, probably the story of so many coaches, around what could I really do that would be with involving people, to be with others, where I can continue to learn, and as well, something that was quite international. So I think going back to the origins, and I guess, when anyone starts any enterprise, especially when it's something you're doing, you're gifting your time to, you want to get joy from it. Yeah. So I think so many things spoke when we decided to co-create with others, the Association for Coaching. At one level was an opportunity to grow and build something, and which involved people. And again, one other personal story, even in the States years and years ago as a young leader coach, where I was off to coaching courses in California on being more of a coaching style as a leader. And I loved it. So, going back to that journey, and I think so many people on that course here in London at the Stephen Palmer Center for Coaching at the time, was a lot of people were just kind of on the coaching journey, or they come from business, they came from maybe counseling, therapy. It was a real diverse group. And I think we were all excited by, and we had the discussions around the potential that coaching could have. And I think one of the memories from even that course, when we had drinks that evening with some others on the course, and you and I started talking, is what could coaching become, and what purpose does it have in the world?
Yeah, just to add that, the people that we spoke to at that time, and as Katherine referenced, they came from different backgrounds. And just to bring it back to today, our community now is made up of professional coaches, organizations who deliver coach skills training, coaching providers, academia, corporates who want to build coaching cultures, supervisors, internal coaches, and of course, individual coaches. So what was there then in its infancy has now grown to something fantastic. And we're so proud of our current community and so excited to be part of it and see where it's got to. So, yeah, no, absolutely, Katherine.
Thank you.
That's fascinating to hear the glimpses of the beginning there, and to think back and to reflect back. My own coaching journey goes back 15 years, but to think how much it has changed, and the symbiotic relationship there between the Association for Coaching and the world of coaching, and how those two worlds have grown together and no doubt supported each other there. You mentioned co-creation, you mentioned community there, and also a need for a professional body there in terms of, I suppose what I was hearing there, Katherine, is a way of using your talents and skills and the skills and talents and abilities of others in a leveraged way to create support and impact and a world of difference for all of those that benefit from coaching. So I'm thinking now, I'd love to understand from you both a little bit more about the vision and the purpose of the AC, and what still stands today that was true back then 20 years ago in terms of advancing coaching and that relationship that you have with the coaching world and helping coaches to advance themselves.
Absolutely. We talk about this often because when we set out, as any business would do, when you're thinking about what kind of business, its proposition and what it stands for, really, really important to us is we put the focus is, well, what is the scope and what is our vision for the Association for Coaching? And every year, even with our planning, we just came off an offsite where we go back to our purpose, we go back to our values, we go back to our mission and what we're looking to enable and achieve as a professional body. And actually, through the years, it hasn't changed that much. So we did start off on quite a grand vision. When we started, the areas around advancing coaching in business and society. I guess we both identified with the role that coaching can play in business. And now at the same time, we wanted to welcome and embrace all of coaching because it's very important for the Association for Coaching that we're supporting the whole ecosystem of coaching and internationally. It is a broad church, so to speak. But when we set out, we wanted to really make a difference in business And then we also saw, as we know with coaching, that the impact it can make on personal lives, the impact it can make in society. So we really did start out, and Alex and I also, brought in other people, as she said, it wasn't just us, about what is the AC's vision and purpose. So it is about championing excellence. It's really important for us when we went back to our values, and Alex can build on some of the values of the AC, which still very much hold true, which are really, really important to us. This component around excellence and mastery and learning, I think for me, just going back to what really gives us energy, and I think this is really a real value set of coaches. We love to learn, and the best way to learn is through others. And if we go back again to where we were back then, there's a side of us, we were asking what is out there in terms of academic research around coaching, and what is out there to learn, continue to learn beyond even this course. So this perpetual need for us, we saw a need that we're on an early journey here of learning, and this coaching was quite new. So going back to our mission, the importance of providing an environment of learning and co-learning was very important. It was also important to us to not be competing with our membership. And what I mean by that is we are, an independent, not-for-profit professional body. That's really important to us, that while we offer CPD and we offer so much, as an independent body, our members are the providers, the academic, the schools of coaching. And we wanted them to feel embraced, and for us, it's about being in service. And then I think the other thing I like to say about the vision, it was always about being international. From what I shared in my personal story about wanting to go out there and go out into the world and learn from other cultures and go out there and trade and work with other businesses. That was always important to me as a person. And Alex and I were both united because also Alex has very much a global mindset. And I think that's part of our core value set of having that global mindset of being respectful and valuing difference in different cultures. So we love the fact, even though that we started arguably for the first 10 years being mainly a UK body, the mission was always to be international. And Alex can go on and talk about more of the international side of the AC and what we're doing. But I'd like to turn over to Alex to say, what would you like to say about our vision, purpose, or values?
Thanks, Katherine. Yeah, everything you said so closely links to our values, and quite rightly you say we review them every year, but they have remained very much the same. And whenever we do a member survey, it always comes back, and people can feel our values. And so I just would love to go through some of them. And part of that is what Katherine referenced at the very beginning. We do have this pioneering and entrepreneurial spirit. And that enables us to look at what's relevant in the marketplace. What is it our members want? What is it our members need? And act in a very responsive way, but also in an enabling way. We very much encourage our working parties and our contributors to have ideas and to act on them, whilst being supported through the leadership teams of the Association for Coaching. So that pioneering and entrepreneurial spirit is still true today, to your point, Rob. What is still relevant from going back 20 years ago. And at the heart of what we do at the AC is collaboration, contribution. It really sits at the heart of what we do, like a stick of rock going through us. And that means that we've got a huge community of people who are readily gifting their time. We always encourage people to work to their strengths in the same way that we did at the very beginning, and the same way that when we wanted to get people on board with the AC and support the AC, we wanted everybody to work to their strengths, their own values, to do what they're passionate about, in the same way that, Katherine and I in those very early days were waking up going, we can do this, we can do this. And we were so super excited by it. We want other people to feel the same way. And that's the feedback that we get, this feeling of being part of a wider community, a global community where people can share ideas, resources, learn from each other. So that spirit of contribution rings all the way through to what we do on a daily basis. The other thing that is very important to us is whilst we have contribution, is the community spirit, so being part of a wider community. And whether that's based on somebody's doing the same kind of coaching that you are, or they're a similar membership type to you, or they're also a new coach, or they also work in academia, or it's their location, or it's their specialist area, or it's what they love to do. We're really all about connecting and that learning from each other and growing from each other. So part of that, what we've enhanced recently is we've built an engagement platform where people can do just that. They can find like-minded people or people who are different to learn from. And that's something we're really proud of how we've evolved that community spirit through what we do. And I think the other thing is that we're really agile in terms of what we do, which links to pioneering and entrepreneurship. And we're really interested in feedback from our members. What is it's relevant for them? And we're interested in feedback, what's going on in the marketplace so that our members can, work with those issues and that we are equipped to support them as well. And I think finally, the golden thread that runs through our values is excellence and mastery. And that's been there from day one. How can we do things differently? What's best practice in this area? And we did that through setting up early accreditation schemes and through our publications. And we've now got this huge array of different schemes that meet different people's needs and organizations' needs, but also our publications, which we'll talk about later, I'm sure, but also the diverse range of digital events that we do and regional events that we do. So we incorporate our values in everything that we do and have a coach approach. We're coaches ourselves. Our members are obviously coaches. A lot of our contributors are coaches. And so that's an ethos as well in terms of the way that we work.
Yeah. And in addition to that, the one other value that is really true to us and important to us is impact. We always go back to, because we are very entrepreneurial, which, from an organizational perspective, can have good and bad because we got so many ideas. So we always got to try to keep up with all that we do. But fortunately, as Alex says, we have a great number of contributors. We also have some support in the center. I think we've got a pretty good structure to support our growth. But we are always reviewing, just saying, okay, what is going to make the difference that makes a difference? So this impact is really, really important to us. We can all go around being busy, but, going back to what Alex was saying is, going back to our members, we are in service of our members and the greater coaching profession. So this is what we're here for. We're here to serve. And so we want to be very open. It's very important to us. Listen, but also, is this going to be making an impact? Now, it doesn't always have to mean it's going to be in this big way that's seen, because when we looked at, we when we started putting a little bit more into our marketing side, into branding the AC, we had those discussions about what is the AC and what is our identity and what matters to us. And how do we depict that in an imagery? And so you may see from in so many of our imagery in our branding, this ripple. And that's really significant to us because if we had to choose an image, many people get the idea of the rippling effect. Actually, there's been articles written about the coaching rippling effect. But I think what this element is, coaching is an enabler, isn't it? Coaching is about enabling others. And for us, it's the impact that it can make. It might be something very quiet behind the scenes. So it always doesn't have to be the big, loud things. It's as an enabler in its many forms. What's the impact? And this is, to me, what gets so exciting, because 20 years later, through the contributions, not just with the Association for Coaching, the other bodies, everyone involved in coaching over the years. And I still think we're very early days. We're still early pioneers. I think even people getting into coaching now, there's so much potential we have and the impact that coaching can make. but the impact that it's already having in organizations, in businesses. And you can just look around, as it was referred to earlier, and see the usage and demand of coaching, not just professional coaches, but the impact it's having in building a coaching culture, the impact that coaching is making with leaders and teams. And I think if there's anything, one of the things I'm so proud of is the fact that collectively, the impact, the contribution that coaching's making to not just business, but also out in society. So that to me is an ongoing pursuit of how do we collectively make that contribution and impact.
Wow, there's so much in there to focus on and to celebrate and to reflect upon, but also to remember going forward from this point on, 20 years in already with the association. And as a member myself, I very much get a sense of that community-centric element that you talk about there, Katherine and Alex, in terms of, I've met some wonderful people myself personally, and I see this going on all of the time in the community, and the impact that the AC is having through those connections and through that being able to evolve people's level of professionalism, as well as advance the body and the knowledge of coaching and coaching practices and all that comes with that. So I'm curious, the Association for Coaching isn't the only professional body out there for coaches. Of course, there's the ICF, there's the EMCC, and there's other organisations too. So I'm a little bit curious, just building on all of those amazing things that you've just described there. What would you say that sets the AC apart from some of the other organisations that exist in the world today?
Yeah, and I think we say this quite often. I think what's really important is that collectively, I think all the bodies want similar things. We want coaching to get out there and make a difference. And we do collaborate with the other bodies. And, collectively, it is the power of the we. So, even though we're talking about AC, there is a great respect for the other bodies as well. And I think most of us, are doing this as a second job. We are commercially as coaches or trainers. So this is kind of an element that we're doing, because we have a passion for what coaching is making a difference, as I said. But if I go back to maybe more at a tangible level, because I think it's always members to say, rather than us to say, what is it that they're valuing from the Association for Coaching? But what I would say from the stories we're hearing, and as well as tangibly some of our distinctions, was probably a way to start, where, as I said in the beginning, we always wanted to really be a professional body that businesses could feel at home with. And I think so many of our coaches that are joining the AC are coming from the world of business coaching and exec coaching. Not the only members, but a big, large part of our community are coaching in business. So that's been from the very beginning, we believe we might be the only body, but we've always, going back to our membership types, we always had a membership type for corporates. So we've got our corporates, and as Alex said, we have the organizational membership, which is for the academia, the schools, the training providers, and of course, the coaches. So we've always said, and we always set out to be a coaching body for all of coaching, not just coaches. And I think that's quite an important distinguisher by the way we want to represent that ecosystem, that community. So the corporates and the typical people that are joining or sponsors of getting involved in getting their organization, their corporate as a member of the AC, and that could be anything from large multinationals through not-for-profits, government sector. So it's not just the commercial, is that one, there is common connection. They see the value of coaching, or they're on a journey to bring in coaching more. So the way the AC supports that corporate membership, so to speak, is that many times they could be the buyers of coaching. So part of this would providing a home for them to come together with other, for instance, internal coaches, other HR, other sponsors of coaching, so they can talk with other peers in other companies. So big part of what we do is we connect people, we connect communities that have shared interest in coaching. So one of our areas is that focus around the corporate, and then also that business side in coaching. And then with that, we've had, I think believe we have we're the only coaching body that has a executive coaching scheme. So we have 2 schemes, and there's 4 levels in each accreditation scheme. On the individual side, I'm talking about, because we do have other accreditation schemes. That we have a normal coach accreditation scheme, and we have an executive coaching accreditation scheme. And why we wanted to note that is when we were speaking to a number of our corporate members, for instance, many times at that time, when we reviewed our accreditation schemes we wanted to enhance what we had. Our corporate members, typically the HR or the sponsors of talent and people, were saying to us, listen, we looked across all the coaching bodies, including the Association for Coaching, and the coach competencies are very good, but there's some things missing for us when we're hiring a professional coach. So we wanted to understand what the gap was. So as we do, which is very important to us, we had a number of breakfast roundtable discussions. We talked to a number of corporations and internal coaches and sponsors of coaching to say, what are you looking for now when you're looking for an executive coach, for instance, when you're bringing in a coach panel? And what we did is we listened to that feedback and we designed this executive coaching scheme that, interesting enough, from the people taking up the AC's coaching scheme, most of them are taking up the executive coaching scheme. So one of our differentiators, we believe, is this focus on the business, and we've got specifically an executive coaching scheme. And that is, if you look into that, what was being said to us is we want a professional coach that understands business context. Context is always key, as we know, as professional coaches. We want them to understand what it actually means to contract with the organization, because as we know as coaches, when we're coaching in business, we're not just coaching the individual, we're coaching the system, we're coaching where the organization is a key sponsor. And they were also looking for elements of things, understanding leadership competencies. So we have built those into the AC's accreditation scheme. I'm going to just take a pause there to pass it to Alex to say, what else have you seen, Alex, about some of our, either what you've heard or some of our distinctions?
No, thanks, Katherine. And I agree with what you just said. And a couple of things that really resonated as you were talking were the words, firstly, home. So I think that's one of the things that does differentiate us. We hear that a lot from our members. I feel at home. I feel part of a community. I feel part of a family. And that's unique for each of them. It could be, we don't know exactly what it is that makes them feel part of that, because we get a whole array of responses to that question. What is it that makes you feel part of the family? And it goes back to what we were saying earlier, being with like-minded people or individuals or organizations, or having something that's relevant for me. And I think that's a key part of, again, going back to the essence of the Association for Coaching, is that we really want to understand who are our members. And we call them, whether it's, within the membership types or the personas of our members, who are they? What do they need? When we actually drill down into and ask them, what would be relevant for them. And then as a part of that knowledge and understanding, we build our wisdom around, who they are, and therefore our offerings. Katherine gave a fantastic example of the executive coach accreditation model, how we spoke to the corporates about, within the focus groups, about what is it that they needed, and therefore translated that back into being of service to our coaches, who could then get accredited and subsequent work within the corporates. And that meets lots of needs there. So I think that feeling of home is really important. I think that the other area is really when we talk to, as Katherine referenced right at the very beginning of her part there, it's not for us to say, it's for our members to say what differentiates us. And, in the early days, people would say, why should I join the Association for Coaching? And the question would always go back to them, what is it you need from a membership body, and then go to the relevant membership body who supplies that. So, and what we do for us is we share, this is the array of what we do. Does that meet your needs? Does that suit you? Have a conversation with our team members, have a conversation with other members. And that's how we grew our membership, very much through referral, through our service offerings, through the massive array of events and digital learning podcasts and digital learning events that we run. So really making it relevant. And even now when we think, what are we going to do next? It starts from a blank sheet of paper about who are they? What is it that this particular group needs, and being in service of that. And that goes with the accreditation scheme, as Catherine's referenced, our executive scheme and also what we're doing in other areas. We have a different accreditation schemes, unlike any other body that meets the needs of different populations of our community within our home, so within our family.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think going back to there's a lot we could talk about here, but I think going back to which we never want to lose is going back to that kind of pioneering and contribution. And I think going back to feedback we are getting, we love to do that when members, we don't like the word volunteer. I don't know why, but we like the word contribution. Contribution has something about what are you contributing? So we all have elements to contribute, even if it's a small element. We're always embracing people, hoping they want to get involved. If it's something small, something larger in a larger role. But this element of contribution, and I'll give you a really good, another practical example of not wanting to lose that pioneering approach and listening to also the contributors on what they want to be involved with. So that's the point that Alex is making, that going to people's energy and strengths approach. In that, I remember we're going back now, must have been 15 years ago, you might have heard the word Dr. Jonathan Passmore. And we were at an event and I was talking about the importance for us about excellence and thought leadership and, sharing research that's important to the AC, the knowledge and the practice of coaching. And Jonathan came up to me after the event and he says, Katherine, is the Association for Coaching publishing any books? Because you're talking about thought leadership and sharing what good coaching looks like in an inclusive way and sharing a body of work. And I said, no. And I said, Jonathan, do you like to write? And he says, well, as a matter of fact, I do. And I kid you not, because he's that type of person as well, is the next week we set up a meeting with Kogan Page. And then I think within a month later, we had our first outline together for our first book, which is Excellence in Coaching. For those who haven't read it, it's still in print today. It's been over, I think, 12 or maybe 13 years. And we have some of the greats in there, like two of the greats have just passed, unfortunately, with John Whitmore and Anthony Grant, talking about the GROW model and solutions-focused coaching. So the joy and the remembering of, bringing thought leaders in coaching together through our books. We have now 6 books later on. We've got 6 books, and we always want to be publishing more. So, and then that's grown as well. I mean, Rob, if we haven't thanked you enough, thank you and the digital learning team for everything you're doing around these podcasts. This is another fine example of the entrepreneurialism in the AC, Darren, Samranda, and said we should be doing podcasts. And then fortunately we had someone like yourself who was the expert here. And then look where we are now. I don't know how many podcast series do we have?
So we're going to be coming up to episode 100 for this one.
Wow.
And I think that's just, let's not lose this essence when we got an idea. It doesn't mean we can't run with every idea, but we can really want to listen to say what will make the most impact and what will make the most difference.
That's fascinating. And there's so much that the association has achieved already. And you've touched upon some of the offerings there, which I'd love to come back to shortly. But I can't imagine it's been an easy journey achieving all of that. What would you say some of the challenges have been, and what have you learned from the journey so far?
I think I'll start with what we've learned. I think what we've learned is going with the energy, the passion, the joy, and riding on that. But so many people have got phenomenal capabilities and strengths that we want to play to, and ideas. We're very much an ideas organisation, and we're very strong in building teams around the people who are really innovative and have that source of, this would be relevant. So I think that's one of the riding on the passion and the energy. So that's for me one of the lessons we've learned, and being supportive and appreciative of all the team members that are involved. For us and all the contributors, for us, it's the essence of the people that make the AC as well as our wider community. And we're very grateful every day for all the work that everybody does. And that's a lesson. Is it a lesson? It's always been there. So, but it's something that we want to continue, that we want others to continue and others to model as well. And they do with the EAC. It's a very appreciative organisation in terms of the projects that we do. I think the other lesson we've learned is staying aligned to our values. So always looking at things, and as Katherine's described, lots of initiatives that she's just brought into the conversations, and we do check in that, are these aligned to our values? But we almost do it instinctively, intuitively. We feel it. We know that this is relevant. We know that this is appropriate. Not to be mixed up. We don't rush headlong going, do it, do it, do it. There is thought and consideration that goes into everything. But yeah, we do make sure that things are aligned to our values and the way that we work, because otherwise, the AC could be going in a completely different direction, and it works.
Yeah, I think I'm building on that is because we have this energy, which you're hearing from us in the entrepreneur. I think, there's an element in it still is probably a challenge for us. I'll say personally for me as well. We don't like to say no, because we do want to, we appreciate the contribution and the ideas. And then there's also, there's also a business side of us to say, well, if we choose to do this, and it's a major initiative, then that will have an impact on the other things. So we do have to, we do step back, as Alex says, and we do have to, step away as well from the passion and make some discerning decisions around whether or not do we do this at this time? So I think for me, this element of, we don't like to say no because of the spirit of the AC, but I think that's just running good business, about as we have those growing pains, and we probably will be, because our energy and our intent to grow and make a difference. We if we could be all doing this full time, so which many of us spend a lot of time on this, but so there's something there. And I think if I talk a little bit about the international, and we are so proud of that. We just launched. I was just out in the UAE the last few months, and we have launched formally out in UAE. We both had an Abu Dhabi as well as a Dubai launch. And that was significant for us because that's our 20th region where we have leadership teams on the ground. So we have basically leadership teams in 20 countries or regions. Some of the countries are clustered together because that makes sense. And we have members now in over 85 countries. We've been running as a global virtual organization, but we also have local teams as well. So this local global focus. And the side of us, which is we would like to be in even more countries, and we want to be, we want to raise and promote our brand. We want coaching to have a bigger voice in whatever region or community, and it takes time. So again, we're not alone because there's other bodies helping that cause. So it's not just the AC, but I think part of our learnings is the fact, as anyone knows, has been, working internationally or expanding an international business, which we are, is things do take time. And, so there's a side of us recognizing it's okay. We might not be kind of the growth levels or the impact we have in certain regions. But what's really important is we are grateful what we do have. And it all starts from having really good teams. And so what we've learned, and we know, is not just about setting up teams everywhere. For us, we've learned the real difference is where we have very strong teams, and we're really proud, and the people that form leadership teams locally, and then it's a knock-on effect to who they bring in, the community that they're developing and cultivating, is that is what brings the energy in. So I think what's important for us at times is to be a bit patient. So, Alex, would you agree?
Yeah, going back to Rob's question around the challenges, what is our biggest challenge? Having so much to do and so many exciting things to do. And absolutely, to your point, Katherine, being patient and making things happen at the right time and the right people. And our challenge is having wonderful opportunities to step into.
Yes. And it's just interesting because we talk about this as a leadership team, is we absolutely, part of our vision, we want coaching, to be advancing across the world, in every country, and the value that brings. So that's the grand vision, which we'll always be in pursuit of. And at the same time, what we also are aligned with as a team is that it's not about quantity. I think let's not lose the importance of the quality components. So that's another thing is we want to be relevant. We can be busy fools, as they say in business, but we want to be making the difference and impact and choosing wisely. But it doesn't always have to be it's not always about growth. It is also about the impact that we're making, or the ripples we're starting to create collectively as a community.
That's fascinating. And I'd love to ask you a little bit about perhaps some of the challenges you see going forward as well. But before I do, I'd love to ask each of you individually, what have been some of the surprises for you looking back over the last 20 years, things that have happened that you wouldn't have perhaps imagined would have happened when you first thought about putting the AC together?
What's happened that is really making me proud, and some of the things, maybe to the magnitude that it's happened, maybe I am surprised by or recognizing it. But when we hear often, Katherine, this element of this community connection, we hear stories so often on how members have met through local co-coaching events or on a Zoom call, in a community call, or a learning event, or they find an opportunity to work together from a contributor perspective. And what I really, really am proud of is the fact I hear things like we've set up businesses together. And, we hear it was through an AC event where, I actually, where I found some great coaches, or I also hear things like I found my tribe, I found I can really connect. So I think the power, which is really going to the heart of what gives us energy around the we, is that when we hear the impact that a community like the AC is enabling and people connecting, and then what that's bringing forth. So it is kind of going back to, we don't really know these ripples. There could be a ripple of what that's making for someone personally, the learning they're getting, or the confidence they're getting, or they get inspired by the fact when they hear and they're part of other coaches, the fact I can do this, right? So to me, that's that efficacy. That's a personal, but when we're starting to see the way organizations are really taking up the coaching and the feedback we're getting from organizations on, I heard some organizations say, we really get it now, and we're getting these internal communities and companies engaging with the AC, and they want us to be supporting them about promoting good practices. So it is in that space of the ripple. And we also hear a little fun. We also have had people that meet their partners, like personal partners, through the AC. We have a few of those. So there's this element of connection that is something that I think we get really excited by.
Yeah, I agree with everything that Katherine said, and there are so many sort of anecdotal stories within the AC. I'm just trying to think of others. It's really interesting because I think probably I'm not sure whether I am surprised by it, but the willingness of individuals to gift their time and their support to the AC for the benefit of others, going back to how can we benefit individuals, organizations and society. So that never probably ceases to amaze me, the amount of time that people gift in service of others, and something that we're very grateful for, again, within the AC. But the ideas that keep coming out about how we could support different communities, different causes, and that probably links to what one of the things that I'm very proud of in terms of that ripple effect and how we can how it's going out in all sorts of ways. I think the other surprising bit slightly is the fact that, in the early days, organizations were coming to us and saying, what is coaching? How do I recruit a coach for my organization? And we were behind the US, or, the UK at that time was behind the US. So we had lots of different markets. Whilst we had set up internationally, we had found that certain markets were coming to us going, what is this? How do I do this? How do I become part of this? How can I make this part of the culture? And we've seen that grow exponentially. So today, we're having, and our coaches are having, and our organizational members are having, very profound conversations about the impact that coaching can make within their organization. They've got really advanced or mature models about how they can manage coaching within their organization, what coaching can do, what are the variations, how they can get their programs accredited, how their individuals can learn more and develop more. So development 20 years ago in many organizations was very much around sending people on a training program. I think that has been one of the biggest surprises, how embedded coaching has become in so many individuals' lives and so many organizations and corporate life, within organizations and corporates. So again, that links back to ripple and impact. So I think that for me is the biggest surprise.
Yeah, you mentioned a couple of things there, which leads me into my next question quite nicely, which is the AC is very much an international organisation and has been from the outset, is what I'm hearing there. What are you proud about in terms of what the AC has achieved from that point of view over the last 20 years?
For me, it's the global presence that we have and how our members can connect with each other, learn from diverse communities, share wisdom, resources, be part of a wider community. Coaching in itself can be quite isolating. And I think one of the things that I'm most proud of is that we have built this community for learning, for growth, for impact. So for me, that's really special. I think the spirit of contribution, I'm constantly amazed by the gifted time and the projects that people work on, and people want to always seem to raise the bar, going back to our excellence and coaching. And I think the other thing, our commitment to being alongside our members, along their learning journeys, their development, their own development, right from when somebody's a new coach or an experienced coach, whether that's part of the offerings that we do in the digital or regional event space, or whether it's supporting them on their accreditation journeys, or for them having access to further CPD through our publications. So that's walking in the footsteps and beside our members, regardless of who they are, and supporting them along the way. And I think the way that manifests itself is that we have a lot of people who were still around, from the very first meeting that Katherine referenced, our inaugural meeting. We still have members from 20 years ago, and they're still by our side and they're still supporting us. And, that's really special, the people. So I think I'm most proud of our community.
Yes, and echo that. Obviously, you're going to be hearing from our conversation so far of how much culture is important to us. The people side, we are people focused, and coaching. Coach approach is important part. We're not perfect, but we try to adapt a coach approach to what we do. It's being a coaching body, and that's about being listening and being respectful. I think we do a pretty good job there from that. I'm also proud of the other elements, and this is in the space of the excellence in mastery. And Alex, you mentioned briefly the publications, but just to bring to life for those that don't know about what we do on that side, we have been sponsoring an academic journal. So it's really important for us to continue to strive to research, to look at the body of work out in coaching. There's no one way to be an excellent coach. We want to bring in the standards of excellence. That's behind what we do. We want to continue to be promoting coaching research. So our academic journal, we've been sponsoring, I think, for at least maybe 13, 14 years, Alex, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, so there's the academic side, and we also have, and I'm going to say this boldly, and this is also from the feedback, because one of the feedbacks we get is our Coaching Perspectives magazine. This is one of our crown jewels, and we're so proud of it. We have a top editorial team with Hetty Einzig and James and everyone else involved. All the people that are contributing, and as a member, you get a subscription to the digital magazine. It is top class, and it's always been. I'm proud because Hetty, from the design of that from the beginning, it goes out quarterly. And we have a professional publishing team it is a top class publication and high quality. So we embrace the diversity. So we want to be. That's a vehicle for the voices of many perspectives, as the title is called, Coaching Perspectives, International Coaching Magazine by the AC. We want to be honoring and valuing the differences out there in coaching. There's so much coming into coaching space. And we are also learning and what's on the edges of coaching. We're learning from other professions as well. So that's important to us. So proud of the publications. We also have another journal as well Philosophy and Coaching. It's free to everyone, the Philosophy and Coaching Journal. So for us, the books, as I referenced earlier, we've got 6 books. We have publishing partners, and we are also very excited to say that we're publishing a new one. It's in the works, and I will be sharing that now. It's going to be on the Leader Coach, which I'll speak to in a little while because we're quite excited about our new initiative there. So yeah, body of work around the high quality content that our podcasts and the way we can bring in basically just really our community of experts. I don't know if I like the word experts, but our community of practitioners and lecturers, the academic side as well as practitioner side around what's coming into the coaching space.
That's lovely to hear. And I have my copy of Coaching Perspectives right here, and it is an amazing read every time it's out. I'm curious, you perhaps touched upon some of the offerings that the AC offers, but I appreciate that there's going to be a lot of new listeners to this podcast, and this may be the first time that they've ever heard about the Association for Coaching. So I was just wondering if we could build a little bit more on what you've already kindly shared with us today about what the AC offers in terms of, I appreciate it offers so much. So yes. To summarise, if we can, the main offerings that the AC offers now that it's 20 years in.
What we're really excited about, and it speaks to the values we were talking about earlier. And we are on a mission and being ambassadors for this area of coaching, as well as all the other elements of what we do in the kind of families of coaching that Alex was referencing earlier with the different types of membership types. But going back to the value of listening to businesses, and we've always said, as I said earlier, a professional body for all of coaching. And when we were talking to our the people officers and our corporate members, HR, internal coaches, we also have a recognized leader as coach accreditation program. And we were getting feedback from the participants that one on this particular accreditation scheme is accrediting managers or leaders in coaching skills, not to be professional coaches, but, as we know from the body of work and the research out there, the demand for coaching, for managers taking a coaching approach, coaching skills training for managers and leaders is continued to be in demand and sought after. So we have a accreditation program for recognized or accredited leader as coach. And this is the course that was accredited. And the feedback we were getting, not just from the corporates, but our organizational members, so the coaching providers in the schools, is saying they see that the course is recognized for recognizing a leader as coaches, the competencies of which we are training coaches to be leader managers. The participants on those courses were saying, well, what about me? Is there any kind of membership that I can join? As a manager or leader applying coaching skills, can I join the Association for Coaching? I'm not a professional coach. And we were getting this feedback repeatedly. And then that made us listen to that. And we realized we're missing something here. If we're supposed to be a coaching body for all of coaching, why wouldn't we have a membership type for what we're defining as the leader coach? Yeah. And I'll read out what we're defining by what the AC has defined as what we mean by leader coach, just to put a little shape to it. And it's the Association for Coaching defines leader coach as someone who applies a coaching mindset or coach approach to get the best out of their talent, enable growth for future success, and achieve collective business and team performance. A leader coach inspires and enables others to adapt to constantly changing environments in a way that unleash fresh energy, innovation, and commitment to strengthen cultures at work for future generations to thrive. A leader coach membership that we have within the AC is for any individual from either the C-level, from the CEO taking a leader coach approach, through executives, through to emerging leaders and people managers. So our excitement and the feedback we've been getting from our members is that there's truly an excitement around leader coaching joining the Association for Coaching. And we launched that last year. And we also have launched a leader coach accreditation scheme specifically designed for a leader coach. And we are getting already amazing uptake from the internal corporates as well as the training providers who are really valuing the fact that there's a journey for a manager taking a coaching approach. So we're not just a coaching body for professional coaches. We are a coaching body for a coaching approach is very part of our mission now and our vision. And that is something that we are really excited for. There's such energy created around that.
Great question, Rob. What does the AC do and what else do we do that we haven't covered already? I think one thing that I could say is that we now run orientation calls for our members because there is so much that we do. We could do a whole series of podcasts on everything that we do. It's worthwhile. So if you're a new member or an existing member, do sign up for our orientation webinars. And that gives a high level overview of all the different sorts of things that we do. And they're very popular. We get a huge amount of feedback. And we got a lot of feedback saying, I didn't realize that you did this much. So we've touched on some of the things that we're obviously really proud of. There's a huge amount of other projects going on. Aside from our digital learning catalogue and events that we do, and aside from the accreditation, we also do recognition of CPD schemes. So recognition of CPD hours if you're a coach or if you're an organisation offering CPD learning, we recognise that, and you can get CPD hours. It's proved really popular. We haven't referenced that on this call. It's a fantastic thing. We have recommended reading. We've got resources. We've got hubs for new coaches to access resources. We've got hubs for supervisors, people interested in learning more about supervision. We've got support calls. We've got all sorts of things. So worth looking at our events area, our calendar of events, and see what sort of things pop up there. But a wealth of resources. We've also got a CP resource hub, a Coaching Perspectives resource hub, which is for back editions. We've curated lots of articles around themes. So if you're interested in a certain subject area, do have a look at the amazing articles that have been written. We've got our engagement platform, AC Connect, huge amount of things, and we'll happily do connect. We've got an open door policy, so I would like to kind of build that into this podcast. If you're interested in something, you want to find out more, you've got an idea, do reach out to us. Our door's open. We're always interested in hearing new ideas, feedback, what's new, what's relevant. You've got an idea, so do connect with us.
That's great. Thanks, Alex. We've talked a little bit about some of the wonderful offerings that the AC has had and also some of the challenges that you've had getting to this point 20 years in. What do you feel that some of the challenges are now that coaching has grown so much in the last 20 years and the journey that the AC has been on, and with everything that's going on in the world of coaching and the world today? Let's not look at this out of context and just think about the wider world. What would you say are some of the bigger challenges now that coaching generally has to embrace as well as the AC?
Yeah, challenges, and also, if anything, it also provides greater purpose for what the world is going through right now and the context in terms of coming out of the pandemic, hopefully coming out of the pandemic. I think there's so much going on here for people. I was really inspired years ago in 1982. He's passed away last year by a megatrends theorist called John Nesbitt. And for those of you who know, 1982, he wrote a book called Megatrends. And I referenced it in our first book as an opener about the role that coaching plays. And I referenced John Nesbitt because John Nesbitt was, if you haven't read that book, he coined the term high tech, high touch. And back in 1982, this is kind of before the whole technology revolution. And he was talking about the speed of technology and the opportunities that technology brings and the challenges technology brings with it. this is a man who was studying 10 years of research went into this book and was looking at human behavior, psychology, trends, quite a global theorist. And when he actually wrote, I remember it struck me at the time when I was in university or just coming into university, was he actually said, the higher the technology and the speed of the technology, the higher the need for human touch. And he had rationale behind that. And I truly believe this is what coaching helps with. So going back into the now is that, as much as we can embrace technology, it's here. There's so much opportunity with that. This is the world we're living in now, is that we have a need. We've been referencing quite a bit the essence of community and connection. And, when you think about the internet is really not a technology innovation. I think it's even what John Nesbitt said. The internet is a social phenomenon. The reason why it's taken off is it's connecting people in different ways that they couldn't have before. So I think for me, it is going back to that element of nowadays, we are drowning in information. And, if anything, what we talk about is how can the AC have a role for curating relevant content to make it easy to slice information through all that's out there? We're bombarded every single day with data and information. So this is what we're all swimming in. This is all of us, businesses, people. And that's creating opportunities, but also challenges. So I guess going back to your question is we are starving for knowledge and connection, is my view. And I think this is why coaching is growing in organizations. So if you go back to business at the moment and some of what's happening and some of those trends, we are certainly after the pandemic, especially, the challenges we're seeing internationally, the increase in mental health. I think many more organizations are seeing it or recognizing it. So I think as a responsibility for all of us as practitioners and something we're looking at, also to know our boundaries, but, we have, the workplace and in society, the whole area around mental health. So that's something we are looking at and what that means for coaching. There is so many other elements around the disruption of digital, but also the opportunities of digital. And that's probably, I know we probably have referenced it with other podcast series, but that's another area around us looking at what does this all mean? I think the term being used around democratizing coaching, and I think the spirit of that is really good about coaching being for many, coaching being for all. I think the AC embraces the element of having coaching in all its forms go across organizations, coaching going out into society, paid and unpaid, because people want to contribute and the value that coaching brings in its many forms. So we want to continue to embrace that. What we also want to be mindful of is that because coaching is quite lucrative now, it's getting quite lucrative. If you look at private equity-backed firms now, valuing coaching industry quite high. People are going into coaching and they're getting it from the business side of coaching. And I think maybe this is my personal view, is that how can coaching, we spend, lots of investment in our ongoing development and how in terms of our ongoing importance of the boundaries and the ethics of coaching is very important to us. I think all professional coaches sign up to our code of ethics. Important to professional coaches is we want to make sure with the upturn of digitalization is that we want to maintain the standards of ethics, especially to protect the community. So, there will be people going into coaching that maybe are not putting the value. I think most are, many are, but one of the reasons why we set up is we wanted to ensure that coaching is standards of practice, excellence. We want to protect the public. And this is very important to us as well as a professional body. So I think these are all, wider discussions we have is how do we embrace and protect? It's kind of keeping and honoring both. And this is where I think you don't have to do it alone. We do this with other bodies. We do this with other coaches and other people within our community. I think we all want that. We want coaching to be sustainable and we want people to see the real value of it. It doesn't mean we can't bring in difference and different innovation going in within it. So those are a few areas around challenges. I mentioned the well-being space. I talked about the digital disruption and the opportunities within that.
It's a really interesting question. We are a membership body for coaches and for coaching. And there is a big wide world out there who's facing a huge amount of challenges in terms of climate change, the pandemic, mental health, poverty, EDI, all sorts of issues are out there in the world. And what is our role? We're constantly having conversation. What is our role in this space? And we do have a role, and we have a role not as experts in this space. I think that's the key thing that we want to stress, that we're not the experts in the space. We're a membership body who have a huge array of people, that coaches and organizations that do specialize in some of these spaces. And what we want is for them to also have a platform, which is why in our engagement groups within AC Connect, there are forum areas where individuals who are passionate and keen about some of these areas can observe, can share ideas, can share thoughts, can get together, form working parties. And it's an opportunity for them in their passion space, in their cause space, in their expertise space, to have a platform where they can share resources and ideas. And we all learn from that, as part of the leadership team and part of the internal AC community and our wider members. We can all learn from that. So I think there's lots of learnings. Our challenge is to learn about what is going on and how it impacts others, and also how to, we have experts in this space, coaches who work in the mental space area and EDI area and climate change. So there's a wealth of knowledge there, which we're very respective of. And how can we learn and do more in the spaces that people want to do more in? So that's what I would just kind of add in terms of challenges. There's a role that we play, which is evolving.
Yeah. And going back to businesses again, we're hearing about whether it's a trend or a fad, there's the great departure. You might have heard that term with, some people are deciding to leave the workplace. I think there's a bit of that saying. I don't actually think we all have to work. I think there's an element of that. But I think the point behind that is that, recent events, the pandemic and what's happening is there is something I'm seeing and we're seeing is that going back to the conversations in organizations in terms of from what they're even looking for in a coach, or looking for the types and forms of coaching. And I think this has been it's been a good thing in that what this is as much as the challenges that companies are having with engagement in some cases, the war for talent, that's another thing that's coming up a lot. Creating cultures and cultivating healthy cultures that have purpose is really important. I think it's on most businesses' strategic agendas, is how do we create a thriving, healthy culture? I don't know if I would have heard those kind of languages even 10 years ago. I'm hearing in businesses now about words care coming out, which is a really positive thing. So some of these, in value sets and truly meaning, even some of the hardest sectors, you think of even some sectors like even financial services, and we're seeing things like we got to really, really care. We got to create an environment of caring. And so these are positive things. And then that also means that there's different ways to approach it when it comes to learning and development and the types of coaching. And with that, which I think is a really exciting thing, is that there is this kind of craving for graver meaning and purpose. You look at some of the research out there, especially with the younger generations, but I think it goes across generations, looking to say, well, what is this all about here? What is this all about here in this world? What is my job about now? Finding meaning and purpose and whatever it is something that does come up in coaching. So I think that is, some coaches have always kind of been in that space, and we always are client led, and meet the client where they are. But I think what this is creating is, we're having discussions within our community around some of the areas of coaching. Transpersonal coaching comes to mind. Some of the schools of coaching, looking at identity, looking at deeper ways of coaching within coaching, of how do we work with people finding purpose and meaning. And so that's an area for some that's emerging. It doesn't always happen. Sometimes it happens at career phases, or when they're making a transition, for instance, maybe even leaving the career to kind of next phase, people going into retirement or the next phase. So I think we always like to look holistically, but this is also making us look at these challenges, Rob. What does this mean for the kinds of coaching emerging? So these are some of the discussions we're having now within the coaching, within the AC.
Yeah, so clearly a lot of very important work there, lots of important challenges to be tackled there that coaching can help towards. To your point there, Katherine, about what's emerging and where coaching is going now, with all of our conversation today in mind, where do you see the biggest opportunities, and what would you say you're most excited about how coaching can make a contribution to all of those things that you just mentioned there in terms of those challenges?
Yes. Well, one of them I haven't mentioned yet, which were, again, another exciting initiative that we launched is we're launching this year. We've announced it. We have been working on is team coaching. And again, going back to the rippling effect, and this is kind of where coaching is at in businesses. Alex was referring to it now. Most businesses now have coaching in one form or another. They know it, the value it, they're seeing the value, the demand, as we talked about that. And as a result of individuals being coached and seeing the value, and, historically into this day, it's still a lot of the coaching is at the top, but the good thing is going across the organization. I referenced the leader coaching style, and that's a good way for coaching to come out more across the organization and making it available for more people. Also, internal coaching is we're seeing more of, and we're accrediting internal coaches, and they want the same standards as an external coach, just as an aside. So we're excited by the different forms of coaching personally, and some coaches saying, is this a threat because they're doing more internal coaches? I personally don't see that as a threat. I think excellent top business leadership coaches, exec coaches are still going to be in demand. There's value in an external perspective. For me, it's an and. So the and is, the value that internal coaching brings. But the point I wanted to make is that now that coaching has, there's demand there and leaders get the value of it, the natural thing that we're seeing now is, how do we now coach our teams? So we have designed our team coaching accreditation to understand the complexities, the messiness of team coaching, and the value of team coaching. And we want to, we've on a mission to help the profession understand what good looks like when it comes to team coaching, so we can be good at what we do, but also bring that body of work and knowledge and be encouraging that. So we're seeing team coaching grow. The interesting from some of the white papers I've seen is that there's more demand for team coaching. They might not be calling it team coaching, but what we're seeing a demand for developing teams. There's more demand for that's being offered. We're getting more demand for people that really understand, how do you work with teams? How do you also work with groups? And there's also distinctions between when you're working with groups as opposed to grouping, you're coaching an intact team. So I think while this group coaching is not new, and as I referenced earlier, coaching skills for managers and leaders is not a new thing. What we're seeing is it's growing. The demand for more effective team coaching training, team coaching interventions, skilled group coaching, bringing groups together, even from different parts of the business, using the coach approach to bring out the quality of thinking and the conversation. So it's if anything, it's multiplying rather than is it necessarily a new thing. I think team coaching has been in the background, but it's really starting to be identified.
I think, team coaching we're seeing more and more of in its various forms. And I think we've seen a pattern over the years for different things emerging at different times. And for us, it's about being mindful of that. What does that mean for our members? How can we support them in that area? How can we learn from them? So that we've often seen different things come up over the years, and that learning is critical for the way that we shape the AC going forward, and looking at what's on the horizon going forward as well, both sort of near horizon and kind of in the future. So, yeah.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for that insight. And it's been an incredibly rich conversation. And I know we've only really just touched the tip of the iceberg in terms of what the AC is about and what the AC has to offer. So I urge our listener to head on over to associationforcoaching.com to learn more. And some of those subjects that you mentioned there, Katherine, like team coaching, have already popped up in the podcast series so far. So if you enjoy listening to these conversations, go and have a look back at some of the previous episodes from the Association for Coaching, where you'll find lots about technology, about diversity and inclusion, as well as how coaching is contributing to tackling the climate change and the introduction of things like AI and digital learning and technology. So to wrap up then, this, I guess, a whistle-stop tour in some respects of the AC's journey over the last 20 years and what it has to offer today and where things are going. What would you say for both of you, Katherine and Alex, individually, what would you say the one thing that you're most proud of in terms of your involvement, your participation, your own contribution to the AC? What are your current feelings on where it stands today in 2022?
Thank you, Rob, and thanks again for this wonderful opportunity to share more about the story of the AC and where we came from, where we are, and where we're going. I know you've got a whole series of podcasts lined up with many more voices of the AC and our wider community. And I think that's something that I'd like to kind of reference and bring to the table. It's the voice of our members, and starting with Katherine. So I'm extremely grateful and proud to be a friend of Katherine and have met her 20 years ago. She has changed my life. The AC has changed my life in so many ways. So that's kind of, it's not a proud thing, but I just want to reference, I am extremely grateful for that moment 20 years ago and where that has led to. So it's the voice of others. Along the way, we've met phenomenal people who've helped us build the AC. Darren, Gladina, Carol, loads of them, Jeanette, Maretta, everybody, many of whom are still part of the leadership team today, and others who aren't part of the leadership team and are just as valuable. So it's I think the proudness is a thank you to everybody, and it's such a gift to be able to hear different people's voices, different people's perspectives, and how that's helped shape the AC, and will continue to do so going forward. So I guess that's the bit that I'm proud of, that we've built this ongoing community that's sustainable, that will grow, and is a joy to be a part of.
Wow. I echo what Alex has said. And, oh gosh, there's so many. I think one would be the uptake that coaching is having in business. Yeah, in the world of business. Now, it doesn't say we're a player in there to help and support the growing of coaching in business and the impact that will have, and to be able to support the community of practice for all the professionals supporting business. But also what we didn't share about is some of the work we're doing in society as well. And maybe that's we can talk about that in the next podcast series, because there's some really heartbreaking stories and warming stories around how, especially through countries that are going through some really challenging times, or even something close to home in the UK with with the way during the pandemic with the NHS. But there's so many people that are volunteering and contributing their time to good causes, and they just don't talk about it because they're just doing it from the place of contribution. And that is just I mean, what other industry can you get? Well, there are probably other industries, but I feel so much gratitude being involved in a profession and in a community of practice of other people that share shared values for a shared purpose. The other thing I just like to say and really signpost is, really proud of our digital learning. We already talked about the podcast, but the work that team has done. And all gratitude for all the speakers over the years. And, there is a whole richness there that Samranda, the team, we're always looking for difference. We always want to bring in that diversity in terms of thinking and shared thought leadership, and in providing more of a curated place, you can find specific content that's relevant for you. Going back for the Star for Knowledge comment I made, it's really hard to sift through all the webinars out there on the net, but I think we do a really good job of being mindful of what we do bring in. We try to aim for quality and diversity, as I said. So I'm really proud of that. And I'm really, I just want to say something from the heart too with Alex. Alex, I love working with you, and going back to when we met, all those years ago. I mean, just what a pleasure it's been. And I'm looking forward to the next 20 years. So, and I'd like to also thank Rob again for bringing us on to this webinar and getting us to come on and do the talk. I think at first we weren't sure because it's always about others. And but you were encouraging us to share the story. But again, I think finalizing that is very important. That is the we. And then lastly to say, you mentioned it briefly, the opportunities with AI and technology. And that's something, again, I know we're bringing in, but let's be really open to what will evolve in the world of coaching. Let's not be set. Let's not have that fixed mindset. And excited by the fact that we can explore new grounds and new opportunities in our pioneering way. So thank you, Rob. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you so much, Katherine and Alex.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to another podcast by the Association for Coaching. I'm Rob Lawrence. For 20 years, the AC's purpose has been to inspire and champion coaching excellence, advance the coaching profession, and make a sustainable difference to individuals, organisations, and societies worldwide. To find out more about the Association for Coaching and our member benefits, follow us on LinkedIn or explore our website at associationforcoaching.com. You can keep up to date with our latest podcast episodes, enjoy the wealth of digital learning offerings, and gain insights from our Coaching Perspectives magazine.